VitalHoops is for the culture.
Peace. Jumbo, welcome to the Vital Hoops Podcast. My name is Fernando Cardenas, aka International XB. I'm your host, and this is episode number 52. Our guest today is a brother, a comrade, a fellow Afro Cuban, and I'm honored to have him on the show, Vladimir Gonzalez. Vladimir, peace, my brother. How you doing, man?
What's up, man? What's up? I'm good. How are you, man? I'm so happy to be here, man. So happy.
Welcome to the Vital Hoops Podcast.
Thank
it's
you.
an honor to have you, man. It's an honor to have you, brother.
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of your podcast, and I found your podcast very recently.
Yeah.
Very recently, it was through the show you had with Diallo Kenyatta, right?
Oh, brother Diallo, man.
Brother Diallo, shout out to Brother Diallo, and I follow him wherever he goes. So he came to your podcast, and I found it. But then I found your content, man, and it's amazing. And I watched a few of your videos, and then I found out you're Cuban, which I'm Cuban too, and I'm like, oh, the brother is Cuban, and I'm like, and I'm trying to learn all of this stuff about everything you talk about, Pan-Africanism, healthy lifestyle, and all of that. I'm into all of that, and then I'm like, the brother is Cuban, but he's speaking this stuff in English, and I'm like, and that's when I reached out to you, and I'm like, brother, you need to talk this stuff to our people, you need to talk Spanish.
No doubt, man. So listen, I appreciate you, man. Listen, for the listeners, for those of you who hasn't seen yet my episodes here on the Vital Hoops Podcast with Brother Diallo Kenyatta. It's episode 46 and 47. Go check that out for sure. And
amazing.
Vlad, man, listen, this is why we had to do what we're doing now, man. And just for the listeners, I spoke about this a little bit real quick, I think last episode or 2 episodes ago, but Vladimir and I and another one of our brother, Javierito from EPGMB, from a legendary...
Shout out to Javierito.
Yeah, from a legendary Cuban hip hop group. Maybe the most legendary in my opinion. Where the three of us are we're starting a show called Habana Negra, and we're gonna be tackling, everything or a lot that's going on in Cuba from a Pan-Africanist perspective. So for you Spanish speakers, we're gonna be doing that. Hopefully it's gonna be good. It's gonna be positive. We're gonna reach our people, Afro Cubans, and other Africans from all around the world that speak Spanish. So that's the goal.
Yeah, we're very excited about that.
Yeah, we're definitely excited. I'm definitely gonna have the link to our YouTube, to the Habana Negra YouTube. The link is gonna be down below in the descriptions. So please go ahead right now and like and subscribe to the Habana Negra YouTube, and click the bell so you can be noticed as soon as we drop our episode. We're gonna drop a new show about once a month, and we're gonna try to keep it fresh, and we're gonna have great guests, mostly our brothers and sisters from Cuba.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're gonna have a lot of guests, and we're looking forward to interacting with everybody. But it will be in Spanish.
Yeah, for sure, and pick people's mind and people that have been studying this stuff for a long time and have been contributing, and kind of like offering a space for us to talk about this, about this
absolutely
subjects, that have been banned for so long, right?
Right.
These topics, right?
Yeah, these topics have been, silenced and banned.
Silenced, yes.
But listen, it's like what we spoke about before. Like there is no such space, about Cuba from Cubans with a Pan-Africanist perspective. You can't find that online really. So I felt like this was needed because a lot of people tend to not really understand the situation in Cuba. I've had this problem, with a lot of my comrades even, where they have a certain vision about Cuba, which is not necessarily what's going on over there. And at the same time, we all know the other side, all the Western propaganda against Cuba, so we wanted to try to keep it as real as possible.
Yeah.
And basically our people need our voice, you know what I'm saying? And we need our people. So this is great. This
Yeah,
is perfect for us to be able to express ourselves, to try to learn more, and share what we know. You know, that's about it. Habana
yeah,
Negra,
for
we
sure,
try to
for
do it,
sure.
you know.
Yeah, offering a very different perspective. You know,
That's it.
very
That's
yeah,
it.
and at least a perspective that is not popular.
Mm.
Like you say, you know, there's no spaces talking from this perspective, from the
No.
Pan African perspective. You know,
Yeah.
and that's hot. That's
That's
hot.
needed, yeah, man. I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
listen,
man.
we'll get back to Habana Negra towards the end a little bit more, man. But I wanna talk a
Sure.
little bit about you, man. Where you from? Obviously now they know it's Cuba, but talk to us
Yeah,
a little bit about yourself. Growing up, and you're now live from Toronto, Canada, right? So how
yeah,
long?
yeah.
So how long? Let us know all of that a little bit. When did you get to Canada? How long have you been there, and all that? So
For sure, for sure, for sure. Yeah, yeah. I'm Cuban. I was born in Guantanamo City, right? Guantanamo, and I think I was born in Guantanamo, but I moved when I was 3 years old, right? And I grew up in Ciego De Avila, which is in the middle of the island. For those who don't know the island, so however, I always kept in touch with Guantanamo, right? But that's where my mom's family is from. It's a huge family, and I appreciate that a lot now because that I think it's helped me understand and see the issues with African people from a perspective that I wouldn't have had if I was born and raised in Ciego de Avila. From my opinion, that's my
right, right,
opinion
right. No, no, I feel you.
because it's a very different culture. It's a
Mhm.
very different culture. When you go to Guantanamo, Santiago, the black population is bigger,
Yep.
and the Africanness is all over the
Yeah.
place, right?
I've heard it. I've
So
heard it's very. I'm sorry. I've heard it. Didn't mean to cut you, but I've heard. Me. I'm from Havana, Matanza. My father was from Matanza, but I grew up in Havana. But I've heard that down in Guantanamo, it's a lot more connected to the other islands because you are so close to like
for
Jamaica,
sure, for
really
sure,
close
for
to
sure.
Haiti. Like I've heard,
Yes,
like sometimes you can
yes,
even feel when there's an earthquake in Haiti. Sometimes you feel it in Guantanamo. Like
yes,
it's really
yes.
crazy.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right. That's right. That's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
And there's a lot of there has been throughout history a lot of back and forth migration
Mm-hmm.
between
Yeah, of course.
Jamaica and Haiti to that side of Cuba, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you see people with last names that are from either from Haiti or from
Jamaica.
Jamaica,
Mm-hmm.
right? So in that all of that again, that's essentially Pan Africanism,
No
because
doubt.
we are
One people.
uh, one people and
Yeah.
getting together with our people from other parts of the world and building and building life together, right?
Mhm.
So I had that experience from Guantanamo, right? And then living in Ciego de Avila, which is a way to call it would be like a more European side of the island, in terms of the culture, right?
Mm-mm-mm.
In terms of the culture, the black population is not as numerous as
Yeah.
you would find in Santiago and Guantanamo,
Yeah.
and also the black culture is not as prevalent. There
No doubt.
is,
Yeah, I hear
there
you.
is, but it's not as prevalent. One and two, it's hard to find people. At least again, this is my perspective and my experience.
Yeah, yeah.
It's hard to find people that are historically connected to our roots and our culture,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
the actual connection to Africa and our history and all of
Of
that.
course.
That is not as prevalent in Ciego de Avila. So having the exposure to Guantanamo
Yeah.
in this case it's been a blessing, to then try to learn and understand more of our history and our
Of
culture,
course.
right?
Of course. But I think it's documented that, pretty much throughout the middle of the island and everything, it's a lot more white.
For sure,
It's a
for
lot
sure.
more white people. So
Yeah,
basically the black populations are in certain spaces of Havana. Matanzas is very black,
yes,
a lot of black
yes,
culture. And then
yes,
and then it's pretty much down in Guantanamo, Santiago. So
yeah,
basically, yeah, we know that a lot of places in throughout the islands are very a lot of white
yeah,
people, a lot of
yeah,
Spanish people, when they came to whiten the island, they did a whole work, a whole job to try to make the island white. They brought in a bunch of people from Spain,
Yeah, yeah,
and they
yeah.
did all of that. So yeah, a lot of. But I
So,
still think that I still think that the numbers that you can see online when you search for the black population in Cuba, I still think they're too low. I still think it's actually higher than that. You know.
yeah, but yeah, I think that I was talking about that with a brother the other day. Shout out to Dre Oguere. We were talking about that, and we were talking about the census. I don't know if it was
Yeah.
the last census or what, and he was saying the same thing. He was saying, like they say, like I don't know. He told me the percent, and I
Yeah.
think it's a too high percent.
Oh, he thinks it's too high
too high the percentage
of whites.
of whites,
Yeah. I think so
right?
too,
And
man. I think those
yeah,
senses.
but I think the reason is, we have it, they start the approach of blanqueamiento, right? Which
Yeah,
they
of course.
to whiten
Yeah.
they try to do that physically, right? Importing white people from Europe,
Yeah.
right? In many countries in Latin America and Central America, they try to do that. In
Yeah.
Cuba, of course, too.
Yeah.
That's one thing. But the other thing, they also we have been affected with the mental blanqueamiento,
Yeah.
right?
Without a
what
doubt.
does
Yeah.
what does that mean? Like if I can pass as white, I will pass
I'm
as
white
white.
right away.
I'm
Yeah.
white.
Of course. Of course.
So if someone asks you,
Yeah.
so right
That's
here your race,
yeah.
you're gonna say white,
That's what happens.
right?
Yeah. That's what happens. Yeah. Without a doubt.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
Yeah, so of course, like if you do like for real, like if people were informed, right? If
Yeah.
people were
Yeah.
informed about history and everything what happened, what we've went through and all of that, then you have a well informed decision to make,
No
right?
doubt. Yeah.
And those numbers will change a lot.
Those numbers will change. But also, there's one thing that what you said is important. It's the mental side, man. Because listen,
Exactly.
a lot of people would think or say that the reason why the people are jotting down white is because there is no colorism in Cuba. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? Or maybe because once they're light skinned, that's it. They're you know what I'm saying? But the truth is the racism is heavy in Cuba, the
it's
colorism
heavy,
is
yeah.
heavy in Cuba. You know what I'm
Heavy,
saying?
yeah.
And it's pretty much like it is in most places, meaning that the darker you are, the worse you have it. But if you
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
but if you're light skinned, it doesn't mean you're white. You're still not white, my man.
mm-mm, mm-mm,
You're still
mm-mm.
gonna get you. You're
Yeah,
still
yeah, yeah,
gonna,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? You're still not gonna be treated like the white people. So, that's a reality that also we can get into it in a little bit. But keep going, man. You were talking about yourself, man, and growing up in
Yeah,
Guantanamo.
yeah. Growing up in Ciego de Avila, right? Growing
Mhm.
up in Ciego de Avila, which again, it's an experience that I also appreciate because you get the perspective, right? You know how important it is to travel, right? In a sense, I know that I've been traveling to it because it's essentially, if you think of the cultures of the two provinces, you could easily say it's a different country,
Mhm.
right? So I appreciate growing up in Ciudad de Avila to get this, to be able to get this perspective, to experience discrimination and racism, right? And in many ways, in the ways, in all the ways, in the way that people are intentionally trying to hurt you, emotionally hurt you, or whatever, and also the people who are not do not understand and have had this inheritance of the language of the racist and all
Yeah.
of that, right?
Yeah.
So I think that because that again, it helps you understand. So yeah, man, I grew up in Ciudad de Avila, and yeah, school in Ciudad Avila, friends in Ciudad Avila. Again, not a lot of black culture. I do remember growing up, I had this brother of mine who's Rasta, Mario, and that was kind of like the black family that I was kind of friends with, and I would hang out with them and all of that, and and in my neighborhood, mix here and that, and and there's black people everywhere, and all of that, but really, like, in a place like Ciego de Avila, even I think most black people are trying to be white. See what I'm saying? In
Yeah.
one way or another.
Yeah.
And I'm not excluding myself from that.
Yeah.
You know, that's what we try to do. That's the dominant. And this is the thing, like whiteness doesn't allow other races to express themselves or to be themselves, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So if you are in an environment that is mostly white,
yeah.
you have to, not that you have to, but you will be coerced to hold yourself down, right?
Absolutely.
And and the family that I was talking about, that my friend that's Rasta now, Mario, that's the family that was very black, and they had their own thing, and you can feel it now. Now you look back, and I can understand it better, right? But that's the reality. Of course, back then when you're a child, you don't understand that. You just moving with the flow.
You're just moving
right?
along, and you're trying to find a place. And
Yeah.
and when you're young, what happens? You're trying to be noticed, you're trying to be seen, you're trying to be
Mhm.
accepted, right? You're
Yeah.
trying to be accepted. So you do what you gotta do. You don't really realize that, whatever's going on. So that's how,
For sure. And like I said, like in most cases, I would say it's not like intentional. It's a brainwashing that we have all had,
Yeah,
and you don't even know what you're doing, and you don't even know what you're saying, and all of that. But at the same time, for you, it doesn't feel right, right?
exactly.
And you feel, the thing is, you feel in these cases, you feel more at ease in one place and another. And when you're a child, you don't really know what's going on, and why is that. It's only when you understand a little bit of history of this and that you can appreciate the nuances, right, and all of that.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, growing up there, it was I think it was with hip hop. So throughout your life,
Mhm.
you cannot be a black person and not be reminded from day one that you're black.
Yeah, sure. Black, yeah.
Right? That's not an option for us,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So you have reminders throughout your life,
Mhm.
but that doesn't make you race conscious, right?
Absolutely.
That doesn't necessarily make you race conscious.
Yeah,
That can contribute to your consciousness eventually,
yeah.
but that in itself, you see someone, or you hear a comment, that doesn't necessarily in itself make you race conscious. But I think it was hip hop, Cuban hip hop, one, and also some brothers from they are from Santiago, but they moved to Ciego too, and Castro's, right? The Castro brothers. Shout out to
Okay.
Castro brothers.
Okay.
Those brothers were on this note, like finding out who we are and our history. And they did have a hip hop group, but also we were friends, and that's when we started exchanging books
Nice.
and learning about this and that. And that's when that the black consciousness started to take place, right, or to develop in me,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And that was amazing. I'm always very thankful for that experience. And of course, Cuban hip hop. Cuban hip hop. As I think I told you, it's like how do you call those? Like an alarm clock, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You cannot continue to
Wake
sleep.
up. Yeah, yeah.
you have to wake up.
So wait. Well, around how old were you more or less when you started developing that consciousness?
I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe like in my early 20s,
Okay.
maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
Nice.
Yeah, around
Man.
that time. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
man.
and we exchanged books. That's when I read the Malcolm X autobiography, of course, and books about the Black Panthers,
Yeah.
Azúcar y Abolición,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah,
And many other books, man. And that was, for me, that was like, I was in the desert, and someone brought water for me, like that. That was amazing, man.
it
I was
fed
like,
your
oh,
soul. It fed your
y-
soul.
yeah, man. Yeah, for sure,
Uh,
man.
listen, yeah, no doubt. I feel you, man. Hip hop has been really that voice, man. That voice. Even you know what? As part of the hip hop movement in Cuba, I'm honored when I hear certain intellectuals, certain black intellectuals like Roberto Surbano, and they talking about how
Yeah.
how hip hop is one of the main voices when it comes to negritude in Cuba. You know what I'm saying? And the importance of hip hop in the black struggle in Cuba, man. And
Yeah.
that's really key. And that's why I have a lot to say with the new rappers because, you know, a lot of that is being put to the side as they follow the world trends. You know, in the
Yeah.
world, it's becoming like that. In the world, the consciousness is moving away, specifically in the mainstream. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The world
Yeah.
is moving away. And Cuba is starting to become like, it's very, very much starting to be like a capitalist country, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah.
You're starting to see the differences in class a lot, a lot, a
Hmm.
lot. And you know, and the youth,
Like,
they want to travel with the rap, you know, the young talented rappers, they want to travel, you know, they want to go perform in Colombia, they want to do this, they want to do that, they want to be in the rap agency. So if you start talking all that black shit, you know, your chances diminish, your chances of
diminished
traveling diminish, your chances, you know,
significantly. Yeah.
yeah, you have to
Yeah.
start
Yeah.
talking that. There's two ways. You either you talk good about the government, and in that way, at least, you know, you're gonna be able to be on TV in Cuba. You know, they might help you out a little bit, this and that. But you might have trouble, you might have problems with some of your peers when you do that. Or you just, or you rap quote unquote conscious, but just like, you know, regular stuff, like talking about being a nice person, taking care of your mother, you know, positive shit. You write positive
Mhm.
shit. But once you start getting into real, you know, revolutionary shit, black, you know, African stuff, you're not getting a lot of airplay, man. And, you know,
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's not just Cuba, man. All over Latin America, when it comes to hip hop, they talk a lot about, you know, Latino, rap Latino, hip hop Latino. They're not so much into the African part of hip hop, you know, and that's
Yeah.
something that back in the day in Cuba, all the groups had at least one track where they were talking about negritude. You know, they were all talking about police brutality. They were all talking about world problems. They weren't just talking about local shit back in the day. You know what I'm saying? The hip hoppers, they were talking about world oppression. You know, but the reality is that, you know, who's the godmother of hip hop? Nahanda Biodun, right?
Mhm.
In Cuba.
Mhm.
She's the godmother of
Mhm.
Cuban hip hop, and she taught a lot of the pioneers in hip hop. So she taught them about, you know,
Yeah.
how us African people are oppressed around the globe and all of that. So that came out in the songs. These are
Yeah.
things that you don't hear anymore. Part of it is obviously our fault because somehow we weren't able to pass it on to the new generation. And then part of it is their fault for not trying to get the information from the older people. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
That seems to happen a lot. You know, like some generations have something that is very valuable and important, and is unable to pass it down to
yeah,
the next generation. That happens a lot in many different contexts, right?
yeah.
But the Cuban hip hop, man, was like was amazing. Yeah, and I hope it gets to be again
It continues, man. It has to be.
somehow. You
Listen,
know, some.
this is what I always say about hip hop. Hip hop will always be hip hop. You just have to look to the underground. You have to look to the certain spaces.
Yes, yes, yes.
There's always gonna be, as long as the struggle is alive, you know, the underground will be there and the
But
people.
yeah, yeah. Sorry to cut you off, but
No, you're good, you're
my
good.
that was kind of my point. While you were talking, I was thinking. I think the thing what happened back then, in the time we're referring to,
Yeah,
when most groups had at least one song that talked
yeah,
about negritude
yeah,
or about black pride or
yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
is that there was no option. There was no option to. You knew that the government wasn't going to promote you anyways,
That's true. That's true.
right?
And
So
hip,
we're down here. We're down
yeah,
here. We're not gonna go there. So
yeah.
we will do
Either way,
what's
so
what's really in my heart,
yeah,
right?
that's
I don't
true.
have to pretend. I don't
That's
have to
true.
pretend nothing.
That's true.
So I have to be true to myself for the most part, right?
Yeah, for the most.
So you will find more people talking about real shit, right? and
That's
and
true.
because there's no point to talk about anything else. It's only when they say, okay, this is getting a little bit out of hand, let's give these people a little bit of money and let's give them a option to sing here, but if you water it down a little bit, so and that's when there is an
That's true, man.
incentive. There's an incentive for people to water down their shed and in the end just offer water, right?
Yeah. Listen, man, I was just, you know, we just had a little online meeting with the Pan African League Umoja, the organization that I work with. And there's a brother from the Comore Islands, you know, in Africa. and he was talking about how the situation there is crazy because the French is still colonizing part of that island, and the propaganda as well. The whole situation over there is crazy. One of the propositions was to try to culturally try to approach different artists from the underground. You know what I'm saying? But the brother who's from there was telling us that, listen, they all co-opt the artists because the artists need to eat, right? They don't talk about the struggle because they need to eat, and if they talk about the struggle, they're not going to be on TV. They can't sing anywhere. They can't, But I was telling them that, listen, there are some that are going to find a way. They're going to have a job on the side. They're not going to eat from their art, but they're going to do it. They're in the underground. They're always going to be there, but we have to find them. And sometimes it's hard to find them, but they're out there. They're always going to be out there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
But it's
For
difficult.
sure.
It's a difficult
Yeah,
situation.
yeah. Like you say, you will always find people that they know, right? Like if you know that with the songs you have, you're not going to be on TV, then you're not going to be looking to be on TV, right? That will not be your objective, right? Your objective will be to pass your art to whoever can listen and here and there, especially now when we have these alternatives, right? But yeah, like you say, you will always find them, if you look,
For sure.
if you look enough. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about you said did you hoop a little bit when you were young? Did you play ball back in
Yeah.
Cuba?
Well, like this topic is it's something, because my friends back home, and I mean most of my friends are now not in Cuba anymore, but I was one of the people that was anti-sports.
Okay.
Right? Like I wasn't the most active out of my friends. Let's put
Okay.
it that way,
You weren't
right?
very athletic. Yeah.
I think I was.
You
I
just
mean,
didn't want to. You didn't like
I
it.
didn't want to.
Yeah, you
I
didn't like
wasn't. I wasn't super interested in that.
Okay. Okay.
Like where many of my friends would be like, "I'm gonna go play baseball every day."
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would probably maybe go once,
Right,
and
right.
of course, if you go once, you're not the best. Of course, you're probably
Yeah.
the worst. But I wasn't super into it. At the same time, if you live in Cuba, you will play sports, right? If
Yeah,
you're
for sure.
able-bodied, right? If you're able-bodied, you will play sports,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You almost have no option. I don't know. I never seen one of like in here in Canada or in the States, nerds that they don't go out of their house.
Yeah.
And when you're a kid, you will play sports,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's what I saw, right? You hang out with your friends and you play
You
sports,
play sports. Yeah, yeah. That's what we do.
right? So in my teenage years, I did play basketballs, like with friends, like Fiking, Ariel, and other friends, right? Like we would play basketball and we would go to the secondary school, and they had those hoops there, and we
To
would
the high
go
school.
again,
Yeah,
yeah, to the high school, yeah, and then we would go and play basketball, But again, in my case, I wouldn't necessarily go every day, but I
right, right.
remember like there was a time when I would
Where
go
you were
pretty
into it.
often. Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty often. We were into it, we were into it.
right.
But from that angle, like I wasn't I know I have friends that were like super into it, like super, and that I wasn't that guy.
That
But
was me, man.
that was you, right?
Man,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know what we did back in the day, man? In Barrio, we actually put up a hoop because the street where I lived in, I grew up in Santo Suarez. So the street where I lived in, there weren't many cars that would pass by. It was kind of a desert street. Like once in a while you'd have a car, but not really. So what we did, there was a big tree, right? The tree was like right on the sidewalk. So we put up a basketball hoop facing the street and we played in the street. So we put up the whole, the backboard. We made it ourselves, wood, everything, and we had a real hoop, and we put it up, boom. And so what happened, man? We had in our neighborhood there was one of the players was he was an ex-player that used to play for Capitalino. He was an ex-pro. So he started coming out, and we were hooping. This was me and my boy. We were the only teenagers. We were like 13, me and my boy, and everyone else were grown men. You know what I'm saying? And the league got so good that people from all over Havana were coming down to this league right in the street, man.
Wow, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it got real good. So we were playing 3-on-3, and the league got good, man. And it was dope, man. Me and my boy, we were the young boys, and it was grown man league. Everybody would come down to hoop over there with us. And yeah, but I'm talking about this was like the late 90s, right? And Jordan, man, Jordan mania. Everybody was going crazy. You
Yeah.
know, for Michael Jordan, man. Everybody was like, following the Bulls from
Yeah,
Havana.
yeah.
Yeah, that was the golden era, man. 90s.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember, but there was a time in Cuba around those years where out of nowhere they started having those NBA games on TV,
Yeah.
and that was crazy. And we were all like, we'd be following that. That was the time, yeah, like Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, right? All of those people, and that's the time when we would be playing every day, right? Because we had that incentive.
Yeah.
And of course it's something new, something that comes from the States, right?
Yeah.
For us, like,
So
right?
it was hot. This is hot.
It was so hot. It was so hot. I want to do that, right? So
no doubt, man. Yeah. So listen, speaking about basketball, man, I don't know if you saw, but recently in the FIBA, the Ameri Cup, they're doing the qualifiers for 2025. Cuba played the States, and Cuba recently beat the States, man. So
that's national news. That's
national news.
That's big news, man.
But
that's big news.
Listen, Javier is right, man. I was talking to Javier, and he was saying how there weren't that many people. It's weird. It wasn't that many people in La Ciudad Deportiva because it was in Havana. But and they put a nice court, man. They put up a really nice court, but there weren't that many people. I wonder if maybe the entrance went up. Maybe it's just that shit is so fucked up right now that the people are not even going to the games. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I think it's a combination of many things.
Yeah. Because I remember when I used to go to the game, it was like un peso para entrar. It was like 1 peso. It was like really cheap. Everybody would go to the game. But I don't know if they made it more expensive or it's just that, I know that the struggle is real right now.
Yeah, it is. I remember around the time when I left Cuba, basketball was pretty popular, and maybe it was because around that time, the team from my city, from Ciego, was winning a lot, and
Ciego was good,
yeah. They were very good, man. They won the championship.
Yeah.
Again, I don't follow much, but I think more than once, and they were the shit.
Yeah.
But basketball was very popular. The league was followed nationally. Like the stadiums were. Is that how you call it? The stadiums.
The stadiums.
Whatever it is, it was packed with people, right?
Yeah, they're packed. Yeah.
But now I don't know. So it would make sense that for a game with Cuba and the U.S. would be also packed. So it's interesting that there was no one else. It's crazy.
Do you remember before? But I don't know if you remember, a few years back, it was only like 4 teams in the leagues. Remember, it was Capitalino, Centrale, Occidentale, and Orientale. That's it. It was only 4 teams. And the rest was like you had to qualify for the 4 teams. That was back in the day. I remember that. But then afterwards, they put a lot more teams in the league. Now it's like maybe like 10 teams. They have like Matanza, Ciego, But back in the day, it was only like 4 teams, man.
Yeah. I cannot be talking about basketball and Ciego and not shout out my brother Rai Guaso. Shout out to Guaso. I hope you're watching this and shout out to Guaso. He's a champion. He's a champion. Yeah, he's in the Ciego team. And
is he still in Ciego or did he leave?
No. He's in the US now.
Is he playing? Is he still playing?
I don't think so. I think I've seen. I believe. I haven't talked to him in a while, but I believe he's training. I've seen him training kids or whatever, something like that.
Okay. Well, any of our brothers, man, any Cuban hoopers that's playing outside the country, if you listen to this, reach out, man.
Yeah,
reach out to the VitalHoopsPodcast, man, no doubt, and we'll talk.
Yeah.
But to go back to the game, man. Yaciel Rivero. I don't know if you know who Yaciel Rivero is. He's one of the best current Cuban players. He plays for Maccabi. Maccabi is like a really big time basketball club, EuroLeague club. EuroLeague is like the second best league after the NBA. So Yaciel Rivero, he's actually on the Cuban national team now. For a long time, players that played outside of Cuba weren't able to play for the national team, right? That was just like something that Cuba was like, yo, if you left, you're a traitor or whatever, you play for another city, you can't. But now it's a good thing that the players are able to play for Cuba. He was out there. They played well, but the thing is that also they lost the first game. They played 2 times. Nobody talks about it. They lost the first game, but they beat the States in the second game. So, but that's good, man. I'm happy that they got that win, even though even though the NBA players weren't there. But
Yeah, but but it's the U.S. Still the
Yeah.
U.S. That's it.
Mhm. And it's
Yeah,
still
but
pros. It's still good players. It's still
oh
pros.
yeah,
It's guys
oh
from the
yeah,
G League, and it was good. But the Cuban roster is looking pretty good. But their
yeah.
group is tough. Their group is difficult. I was looking at their group. They have Bahamas, Puerto Rico, Cuba, and USA. So I
Mm,
know Puerto Rico is really good. Puerto Rico
yeah.
is actually 16th in the world rank. So they're
Hmm.
number 16 in the whole world. So that's gonna be tough. Obviously US is number one, and you got Spain, Germany. Canada is number 7 in the world.
Hmm.
We're gonna get into Canada in a little bit. France is number 9. You got Brazil number 12.
Hmm.
I always follow Brazil and everything because Brazil is an African country, man. It's the
Oh
place,
yeah, 100%,
it's
100%.
the place outside of the continent with the most Africans.
Yeah.
So, the first African country is the Ivory Coast at number 31 in the world. And then yeah, Ivory Coast is doing good these days. They're not bad. They got a good team. And then, Cuba is number 70. That's not bad, man. In the
Yeah,
world,
yeah,
70 is not bad for a small
yeah.
island in the world. And then the other thing I was following a little bit was the Afro basket, the Afro basket qualifiers. I was watching the Central African Republic because, with my boy Junior, he's my ex-teammate, he's my brother, and
Mm.
he's my coach now actually, but he played for the Central African Republic. He played for the national team for like 10 years. So he always watches, and so we were watching the games together a little bit. But the Central African Republic, they had a rough time. They lost all 3 games. So they're gonna try to recover, man. But they lost to Egypt, to Ivory Coast, and they lost like maybe one more. But
What's the quality of basketball in Africa? Like
man, in Africa, man, there's some really good ball players, but there's no infrastructure. There's
yeah.
no infrastructure. Um, a lot of times for the national teams, they bring in European coaches instead of
Mm.
leaving African coaches there. They bring in European coaches a lot of times. So yeah, so it's missing a lot of infrastructure and things like that. But there's some great players, man. But
Yeah.
now it's like everything. You know how it is. We have to be careful because neocolonialism takes advantage of all that shit, and now there's the Basketball Africa League in Africa, which is supposedly to help out African, players and find talent. But the shit is owned by the NBA, basically.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
owned
Yeah.
by the NBA and FIBA. So, but it's called the Basketball Africa League. And it actually it's gonna begin soon. I think the fourth season is coming up now, March 9th, and it's gonna be in South Africa. So I enjoy watching it, but I wish it was an independent league, man. If there was
Yeah. Yeah.
the Basketball Africa League, 100%, everything in Africa, that would be amazing. That would be really great. You know
Yeah.
how it is. It's
Yeah.
complicated, but
You know that the Toronto Raptors, they won the championship, the NBA championship, like
a
not too
couple
long
years back
ago.
with Kawhi Leonard, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think it's the main coach. The guy's from Africa. The
yeah,
guy, Masai, I think
yeah,
his name is.
yeah, yeah,
And I don't. Again, my wife follows that a lot, and she says that the dude is he tries to help a lot in Africa, and in those terms, in terms of infrastructure
yeah, yeah.
and to help African players and all of that, and the dude tries to do a good work,
Mm-hmm.
in that sense. Yeah,
Yeah, man. How was the vibe over there in Toronto when they won the championship?
yeah, it was crazy, man.
It
It
was
was
crazy,
crazy.
man. I imagine.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of pride,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I don't think they win much here.
But I think that was their first basketball championship ever, right?
Ever, yeah, ever,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I know basketball in Canada has been getting bigger and bigger. So
yeah.
especially in Toronto.
But I don't know. I don't really know how it works. But you know how sometimes you have a very nice team.
Yeah,
A team that can get you something. Take you places. But many times they sell players or
yeah,
whatever. And I don't really know how that in the sport world how that works.
yeah,
But I know that in this system, in the capitalist system, the end goal is to make money.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
not necessarily to win.
Absolutely.
Right?
You're right.
So
You're
you
right.
have a team. I'm
And
the director. I
yeah,
want to make money.
yeah,
So if winning makes me money, I will try to win. But if
Yeah.
other ways
Yeah.
I can make money by not winning. And that's something that many fans don't understand, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
If you don't understand that, then you will not understand why they sold so and so
Yeah.
and why they
Yeah.
they didn't buy so and so, right?
Exactly. No, that's true. That's true. You're making a great
Yeah.
point. Some teams, sometimes, and sometimes they just want to get certain players, and they know that player is not necessarily going to help them win, but they're going to help them sell tickets because people want to
Hmm.
see that person. So that's good enough for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes they're like, okay, we just need we know we're going to sell tickets anyway. We're good. We don't want to win because if we try to win right now, it's not worth it business
Yeah.
wise. They're only thinking about the
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yes.
sure.
Yes. So winning the championship could mean losing money. If
Yes.
that's the case,
Yeah.
they don't want to win the
They're not fucking
championship.
with it. Yeah, exactly. That's true, man. And
Yeah.
that's why sometimes you got certain players that are mad at the organization up top.
Hmm.
But then again, sometimes, especially today, I think we see it a lot today with the new mentality, which is not that new, but it's hyphened nowadays, where everything is justified with money. People are like, oh, yeah, he did this, but he's making money. But he's getting
Hmm.
money though. So whatever you do, and if you're getting money, it's justified today. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? We hear
Yeah.
that a lot, and that's
Yeah.
that's fucking crazy. But
Yeah. Yeah.
there's no
Yeah.
limit, basically. As long as you're getting money, that's your justification.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's crazy, man.
But
Yeah.
listen, speaking about Canada, man, talk to me a little bit about what's it like, man? Because I know a lot of people speak about Canada like it's paradise over there. A lot of a lot of people are like, Canada. But
Yeah, man.
we see what's going on in Haiti today. For us African people from the diaspora, we need to understand how important Haiti is.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah.
And I know me and you, we talk a lot about that and how Haiti is, the capital of the African diaspora, right?
Yeah. Yeah. For
And
sure. For sure.
so yeah, man, talk a
For
little bit
sure.
about what's going on there.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, first of all, Haiti is for me. Since I started understanding our history and our movement, right, and our fight for freedom. From that moment, you have to understand that Haiti is the core, right? So it's the core of our struggle. It's
100%. Yeah.
it's not necessarily where our struggle started, but it is where our struggle was most successful, right?
Yeah.
And it's so it's a place to look to for inspiration and understand their history and what they go through. Actually, yesterday I was watching a documentary, Aristide and the Endless Revolution, and it talks about the democratically elected president Jean Bertrand Aristide and all the things he went through. And anyway, he was president 2 terms, and it's very interesting. I recommend that documentary. But yeah, and how that connects with living in Canada, it's that I'm learning that how Canada has had its hands and underdevelopment of Haiti, right? And how it has had an, for example, in that time when Aristide was essentially, it was a coup d'état, but the U.S. and Canada took him out. So essentially, they put him on an airplane and flew him out of Haiti, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and they took control again of the island, and everybody wanted Aristide. The people wanted Jean Bertrand Aristide. So that speaks to the understanding most people have about Canada,
Mm.
right? So when I say it in Spanish, I say, it's la gatica Maria Ramos tira la piedra y esconde la mano, and that would more or less mean something like you are pretending to be someone you're not.
Right.
So
Okay.
most people, when they think about Canada, they think about this country who has an army, but it sends only the army to for peace to prevail wherever they send the army, and that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
um, and the only thing you need to understand is or learn is the history of the invaders, the European invaders here in Canada, and how they treated the natives here,
Mm.
right? That history is crazy, man. It's crazy what they still do to these people, right? To the people that were living in this land for thousands of years, right?
Of course.
If you just if you just take a look at that history, it would tell you things, not only things that happened in the past, okay, because that's what they always say when we talk about these things. Yeah, but that was in the past,
That
right?
was the best.
If it was in the past, then yes, it would be, you would be right, we can talk about it and move on. But if when things are happening to this day, right, there's what they call reservation communities, which is essentially a concentration camp where they put the natives. I don't know if that's the correct term. I apologize if it's not the correct term, natives. But the indigenous people
Yeah.
from Canada, when they put them, there's many of those communities that don't have running water, right? They don't have access to clean water. They have
Right.
to struggle a lot just to get water, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
they're being displaced. They're still fighting a big fight, right? It's not like it's in the past, right? So
Right, right.
that's but however, we always see, because the United States is the big empire, right? They get all the attention and all the news, and Canada hides behind that,
Absolutely. Yeah.
right? So all Canada's atrocities are hidden behind the states' atrocities,
Yeah.
because we are all looking at the states.
Yeah.
You have to be in. You don't have to be in Canada, but you have to pay attention, like really study what Canada does in order to understand what they do, right?
Yeah, yeah, I understand.
Mining companies in Ecuador or in all those places, dispossessing people of their lands, polluting their environments, right?
Yeah.
People that have been there for thousands of years. You just bring your company, you pollute the environment,
Mm.
and you create a really difficult situation and horrible situation for those people, and you're not accountable. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot be held accountable because those people don't have the power to hold you accountable. That's what Canadian companies do,
Right,
right?
right, right.
And have been doing forever. But again, they hide behind the atrocities of the states. The United States is bombing lots of people somewhere else. Canada is helping them, but also destroying other places, and everybody's looking at the states, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Canada for you, man.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, man. 100%. Canada is seen as the good guy everywhere.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
what is it like? What is it like for our people? What's it like for the Black community, the African community, the African diaspora in Canada,
yeah.
man? Where you at in Toronto? I think it's a lot of brothers and sisters, right? It's a lot of
There
brothers.
is, yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of brothers and sisters here. Yeah, regardless where you go in the world, the Black community is at the bottom of the economic society, right? Regardless, like when you talk about here in Toronto, and when you talk about the bad neighborhood, it's
Mm.
a Black neighborhood,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
right? When you talk about a good neighborhood, if you're walking with someone, oh, this is a good neighborhood,
Right.
it's a white neighborhood,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
From my
Shit is
perspective,
crazy. Shit is crazy,
it's
and it
fucking
doesn't
crazy.
change.
It's,
And it
it's
doesn't
fucking
change.
crazy.
You go around the world. You go around the
Yeah,
world, and it's like that, man. Shit
it
is
is the
crazy.
same. Doesn't matter where you go. It doesn't matter where you go, right? So for me, I think one of the things this runners of the system have done is turn everything upside down, because even though there's struggle and a lot of issues in the bad neighborhood, there's a lot more sense of community. For example,
Yeah,
I can tell 100% sure, if you are in a bad neighborhood wherever, and your car breaks and you need help from someone, any of those people, right,
yeah,
will offer you a hand or whatever,
yeah,
right? You need not a direction or whatever. Those people are not afraid to talk to
yeah.
people or to
No.
interact with the people.
Mm.
The opposite happens when you go to a good neighborhood.
Nobody will even look at you when your car breaks down. Everybody just.
Anything happens to you in a good neighborhood, first of all, what are you doing in that good neighborhood?
Oh,
Depending on your skin color, you might you might get shot. Depending on the neighborhood, how good the neighborhood is.
man.
So those things are in the language, but they don't necessarily reflect reality.
Mm.
Because they call those places good, but people have long faces and they don't even talk to each other.
Yeah.
One of the things one of my brothers here says, Eric, he said, Vlad, when I came here to Canada, like one of the things I noticed is that especially in the good neighborhoods, every single house has a hoop, right?
That's
Like
what.
a basketball hoop. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense at all. For
Oh,
basketball, you need at least two people. right? It's complete. Like for example, if people who have this mentality of good neighborhood, bad neighborhood, went to the game you guys, the league you had in your neighborhood,
Yeah,
that's a bad neighborhood,
yeah, of
right?
course.
That's
Yeah,
a very bad neighborhood,
yeah,
and you guys were having the best time ever.
yeah.
So none of these people that live in the good neighborhood have ever had a time like that in their lives, having
And,
one
and,
basketball hoop.
and we did have an old white lady that lived not too far, and she would always bother us. You need to stop. You need to stop playing. What are these guys doing? There's too many people.
Yeah,
But we
she
didn't
she
give a shit. We had a good
she,
time.
she needs to move. She needs to move to a good neighborhood, man,
That's it, man. She need to move to.
and nobody will ever talk to her.
Yeah, man.
Right? Same thing. It's the same thing. So I always said, I live in Canada, but it's Toronto, right?
Yeah,
And every city has its own. But so in Toronto, the experience is, what I perceived. It's very much like, I think I've never been to the States, but the information we get from the States is very much like the States,
yeah,
but to lesser intensity in every sense, right? And also here we have the healthcare system, all those
yeah,
public services, but they are there. So we were talking about it the other day. They are
yeah.
there essentially to, when in the car races,
Hmm.
the cars are racing, they have to go fast, right? They have to go fast because it's a race, but something happens and you need to change a tire or whatever, they take you to the mechanic, they change your tire quickly
Quickly,
and
and then
and
they let
move,
you.
go back to the race,
Yeah.
right? So that's
That's
how
not okay. I
that's
get
how
you.
this health system works
I get
here. So you go to the doctor, say I don't know, you have a pain, whatever, they take you to the doctor, but they try to, it's like, I don't know, you will never be in the doctor for more than 15 minutes
you. They
or
get
20
you back.
minutes max.
They get you
Quick.
back on your feet quick, so you
They
can get
Yeah.
back into the system.
Back to production. You need
Yeah.
to produce.
Yeah.
You need to
But
produce.
but you know what, man? Here in France, it's the same shit with the doctor,
Yeah.
and I've been noticing that for years. And I've been telling my wife and my brothers like, yo, listen, watch the doctor. When you go to the doctors, they don't know shit about your problem. They don't know shit about you. They don't ask you what did you eat. They don't try to find out why are you feeling this way. Nothing. It's just like, oh,
Nothing.
you got pain here. We're gonna take the pain here away. This is what you need. Take this, take that. Goodbye. See you in 3 weeks if you don't feel good. Like it's
Yeah.
like a 10, 15-minute visit. Like you said, they don't sit down with you to see what the real problem is. You know what I'm saying?
Did
And
you have an argument? How's your
yeah, yeah,
relationships
yeah.
with the people? Do you have friends? Do you talk?
What do you
Yeah.
eat, man? What do you
What do
eat?
you eat? Yeah.
And so basically, man, this is why we need holistic health, man, because
Yeah, man. Yeah,
this
yeah,
shit
yeah,
is
yeah.
crazy. Real quick, man, we've been going on for a little while, man. This is dope. We're having a good we're having a good time with
Yeah,
this.
man. Yeah, man. It's
But
going fast.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But listen, I wanted to ask you a little bit, man, because we got to talk a little bit about Cuba, and if you speak Spanish, like I said, I definitely encourage you to follow us with Habana Negra.
For sure, for sure.
We're gonna be getting it dissecting, what it's like for us, Africans in Cuba. But talk to me a little bit about what the life is like for us, Black people in Cuba, Afro Cubans.
Yeah, man. Yeah, 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 for sure. Like we said, the problem we have as a race, as Africans, it's a global problem. There's no place in the
Absolutely.
world where you go where we will not be facing these problems. It's a problem that was created by Europeans, to create the
Hmm.
white hegemonic system they have created, right? So that means that if white is on top, at the very bottom is black, right?
Hmm.
So there's nowhere in the world where you go that doesn't exist, and that includes Cuba,
Hmm.
right? In Cuba, it becomes a bit more complex, in the sense of the system we have in Cuba, right? When the revolution, they turned to socialism, right? So in socialism, they attack one of the problems that we have in the world, which is this class problem, but that's the only focus they have, right? To
Okay.
eliminate social classes and to make everybody relevant in society,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And that's cool. That's great. I'm down for that. I'm
Hmm.
down for that. However, from my perspective, the trick here is this. So if you attack the class problem, you will automatically elevate our people in one way. because wherever you go, our people are at
Our
the
class
bottom
is
of
the
the
lowest.
class, right?
Yeah.
Right. So that tricks people. That
Yeah.
tricks
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
because it is a fact, that many of our African brothers and sisters, their status elevated and their
Yeah.
opportunities increased after the revolution, right? Access to many resources, right? However, if you don't attack the race problem, right, there's an intersection there, right? So you only removed one of them, but you left the race problem. If you don't attack the race problem, everything goes back to the same. Because when everything, when everybody accommodates or
When
whatever,
everything settles,
then everything goes back to where it was
Yeah.
under the new system, even if you, right? And that is the problem. They did not attack the race problem. And I think every issue has many factors. Every phenomenon has many factors, right? I think I would believe that in many cases it's intentional. Many people, I'm sure, that's racist, and they believe they believe in the white hegemonic system and that mentality, right? And many people really, many people really believe that just attacking the class issue would solve the problem, right? But you would have to either be extremely ignorant or willing to maintain it as it is right now, to not see that right now the people at the very, very bottom are still Black people, right? You may not, people in power don't really want to see that. So in many cases, I think they didn't really want to take that extra step, because I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what they fear, right? I don't know what they fear.
Yeah. That's interesting, because you see how the Cuban Revolution has always been supportive to other Africans outside of Cuba, right? They've
Yeah,
always
man.
supported in the continent, everywhere where the anti-imperialist struggle, they were helping all the Africans, right? But when it comes to African movements in Cuba, they've never supported. Never.
I find that puzzles me, man.
Yeah,
That puzzles me
they've always
because
they've always come up with the nationalistic shit.
yes,
we're one Cuban color cubano. That's what they call it. All this bullshit that doesn't stand up to reality. That when it comes to society in Cuba, there is no one Cuban. Us Africans are at the bottom of the shit. You know what
yeah,
I'm saying? So
yeah,
it doesn't stand up to reality. But the
yeah,
government keeps selling that shit. They always have.
yeah. In the international struggle, they have had very, I would say, pan-Africanist approaches.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
helping African countries. In many ways, helping Haiti. Right? Who helps Haiti? Right?
Right. Right.
Nobody helps Haiti.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So
yeah.
people that are in Haiti are to do harm, or that's it, right? Nobody really helps Haiti. Nobody says out of their heart goes and help Haiti, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And they have helped Haiti.
Yeah.
So, however, like you say, when it comes to internal African struggle, it's almost like the opposite, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's
It,
great.
it is crazy, man. It is crazy. It is crazy. I don't know.
And,
I don't
and,
know.
and this is why it's been difficult sometimes for our people, our comrades, to understand that, because they've done everything right outside of the country. So
Yeah.
people look at, see, they sent troops to Angola, they did this, they did that, they're in Haiti, and all in a positive. They resist the US empire. You know what I'm saying?
They have
So
Asada Shakur. Like
yeah, they're protecting Asada.
who would have Asada Shakur called and say, "Can I come to your country?" Who would have said yes around
Absolutely.
that time? Nobody would have said
Absolutely.
yes,
Nobody.
right?
You know what I'm saying?
So it's crazy, man. It's crazy. So it's like, where are you? Where are you? Like, it's
I don't know. I don't know. It could be that, let's be honest. If we look at the Cuban Revolution, it has been white led, right? But
fought.
black people fought it. Yeah, exactly. Great majority of people fighting the revolutions were black, were Africans. But the leadership has always been white for the great
Hmm.
majority, and the few blacks that up to this day, the few Afro Cubans that are up top of the leadership, they're Afro Cubans that will never talk about race.
Yeah,
They won't say
yeah.
they won't talk about racism. They won't talk about race. There's a couple of them, but they won't talk about race, right? So
Token Negroes.
right. The leadership is white. The leadership has always been white in Cuba,
Yeah,
right?
very white.
And so it could be that just that they're power hungry. They just don't want to. They would just want to stay at the top of this shit, and they realize that if there's a lot of race consciousness, people might be like, "Listen, we're a majority African country. Why do we have to always have white leadership?" You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah, I think this problem is deep, man. This problem with the racial problem is deep, and I like how Diallo talks about it, Diallo Kenyatta, because he says we need. I don't think he's the one who says it, but he repeats it a list that we need to study white people, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We need to not us but them, and there's it doesn't make sense like we're talking, so on the outside you do this, and on the inside you do this, and it's like you say, you want to, even when you want to do good, you cannot do the whole good kind of thing, because of losing power and of losing your control, or your desire to control,
Yeah,
and or ability to control everything. You want to be in control all the time, and you
yeah,
want
yeah,
to be, see what I'm saying?
yeah. Of course.
Inability to share anything, right? Yeah, yeah, that's why Cuba is so intriguing, because like we said, like they do this stuff on this side, and then on the other side, on their own house,
Yeah,
it's the opposite, man.
yeah. We're at war. We're at war against them.
Yeah,
African
yeah,
people are at war against the Cuban government in in Cuba, man. Like
yeah, yeah.
it's crazy. Like our people are mostly, like I said, we fought most of the wars. We're still packing the prisons in Cuba too. We're
Mm-hmm,
packing the prisons, man.
mm-hmm.
If you look at the prisons in Cuba, they're gonna be majority Afro Cuban, heavy,
Yeah,
heavy. The same thing. The bad neighborhoods, quote unquote, bad neighborhoods is gonna be that heavy black populated.
yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm
And
saying?
going back to the Guantanamo, right?
Mm,
Like again, I was born in Guantanamo, grew up in Ciego De Avila. But one of the things I always said, when someone asked where you from, I would say I'm from Guantanamo,
yeah,
right? Now I know. Back then I didn't understand, but now I know that that was a political answer, because
yeah,
I'm not really from Guantanamo. Whenever I
yeah,
found someone actually from Guantanamo too, he would ask me, "Oh, you know this, you know that, you know
yeah. You're
this," and I'm
like,
like,
nope.
I'm lost. I don't know shit, right? But I would always say it because, so depending on where you're from, you can be
The
discriminated against
prejudice,
too.
yeah, the prejudice, yeah, the discrimination. Like
Yeah,
when you're from outside the big city, when you're from outside the
yeah,
capital, there's yeah, for sure.
yeah. And we know that in Cuba, the people that are from the East are very much discriminated against,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
And it happens that most of those people are black too,
Yeah.
right? So I was always like, no, I'm from those, I'm with those
I'm
people,
from yeah,
i'm
yeah, yeah.
i'm i'm part of those people too,
Hmm.
right? So yeah, and it's the poorest part of the country,
Hmm.
right, in terms of resources,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
and how resources are allocated in the island. So that's the people that struggle the most, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, yeah, it doesn't make sense, man.
And another thing that we have to talk about is the police, man. The police
Hmm.
brutality for us in Cuba is wild. I'm talking about, the so-called revolutionary police, because these
Hmm.
motherfuckers, they have the audacity to call themselves the revolutionary police. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
They're
yeah.
honest like everywhere, all the time for no reason. Everywhere, man, in the street, they ask us for ID for no reason, constantly. You know what I'm saying? My cousin had this example where, in Matanzas, basically, Matanzas is a very Afro populated area. Well, there's this one nice spot called Varadero. Varadero is a very tourist. It's a beautiful beach that's with a bunch of hotels. It's a tourist area, right? And so my cousin, he works there. He works in Varadero now, but he back in the day he used to work there also, right? And so every time he had to go to work, he had to cross this bridge where he would go from where he lives to the. And so the police would ask him for ID. There was a moment where every day, sometimes it was the same officer, sometimes it was another. They would ask him for ID. Like
Hmm.
this is like apartheid type shit, where you're
Very
doing it
much.
on purpose. You're doing it on purpose, just every day, just to fuck with the
Yeah,
black person. You asking for
yeah,
it. No, let me see your ID. You know who the fuck I am. You know I'm going to work. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Oh, let me see your ID.
yeah,
Like just
yeah,
crazy shit like that. Like we got to talk about this because people don't
yeah,
get it. Like Cuban police with us, man. you know.
Yeah, yeah. It doesn't matter where you go in the island. It's the same, man.
Yeah,
It's the
yeah,
same. The police is on black people all
yeah.
the time,
Always,
all
man.
the time. Can I see your ID? What are you
Mm-hmm.
doing here?
Yeah, yeah,
What are you doing here? You know.
yeah. What are you doing here, man? This is fucking crazy. The disrespect, man.
Sometimes it would be late in the park. You're hanging out with friends and shit, you know, and they would come and say, "You guys have to leave."
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
just like that, you
Like
have to leave.
like they own the fucking park.
Like they own the fucking park.
But that's real
Yeah,
shit, man.
yeah,
Yeah. There's a lot, man. There's a lot to unpack. But
yeah, man. Like I said, you know, our issues are the same anywhere,
yeah,
everywhere. You know,
yeah,
there's not
absolutely.
one place. There's not one place you can go on the planet that we're not going through the same thing. You know, to one degree or another, but it's the same thing. You
Mhm.
know, that's why Pan Africanism is the ideology. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
because we need to understand we're together on this. You know,
Hmm.
there's no such a thing as just Cuban or just Jamaican or just we're African people. And I don't know who said it, but the only difference is that where your ancestors both
Where the
stopped.
boat dropped us off. Yeah, the boat dropped us off over here, over there. You know what I'm saying? It could have been over here, but we ended up over there, you know,
Yeah,
and that's how it is. That's real talk, man. And that's
yeah,
perfect. We're gonna leave it there, man. We're gonna leave it
yeah,
there.
man. Yeah, man. It was a pleasure, man. Thank
Yeah,
you. It was amazing
man.
conversation, man.
I appreciate it. It was really great, man. We're gonna have you back on now. We're gonna have you back
Thank
on.
you, thank you so much for having me, man. Thank you.
Before we go, man, I would love for you to give the listeners a little a book recommendation. Do
book
you have a book you'd
recommendation.
like to recommend?
Yeah, man. Actually, right now I'm reading. Actually, I have it as an audiobook,
Okay.
but it's How Europe Underdeveloped Africa.
Walter Rodney.
Yes.
Oh man,
Yeah, man.
that's an
Yeah, man.
amazing. This is key. This book is key
It's key, man.
for
It's key.
understanding a lot of things that we need to
Yeah.
understand as
Yeah,
African
man. Yeah.
people. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
without a
It's
doubt.
it's that's amazing.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
before that one I read Black Power by
Like Kwame Ture.
Kwame Ture
Yeah, yeah.
and Hamilton. I forget the other name of the brother, but it's co-written,
Yeah.
and that one
Listen,
is very good too.
but
But
Walter
but
Rodney, man, I think we need to really study that brother, man. He was
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I
So
appreciate you, man.
thank you, man. Thank you for having me.
Listen,
It's an honor. You know, it's an honor to
yeah,
be
no,
here.
it's an honor to have you, brother. And listen to everybody. Habana Negra. We're
Habana
coming,
Negra.
you know, hopefully if you understand Spanish, definitely check us out. Like
Yeah,
I said, it's in the
yeah,
description. The link is in the description. And you can click on it. And please, if you have any questions, hit us up.
yeah. Habana Negra.
I'm gonna have Vladimir's info down in the description if you guys want to follow him on IG and all that. That's it.
Yeah.
You got any last words?
Yeah, again, it was a pleasure to be here, man. It's an honor, and very happy to have met you, man, and someone in the Black Cuban community, another person, I should say, another person in the Black Cuban community that that I can talk to and
Yeah.
talk about Pan Africanism and the struggle, man, and
No
the struggle.
doubt. I appreciate you, my brother. We need the brothers and sisters in Cuba,
Yeah.
to understand that Pan Africanism is the way, man.
Yeah, for sure. Peace, brother.
Peace. All right, that's it for episode number 52. Thank you to my brother Vladimir. Let us know if you enjoyed this episode. We appreciate your support. Please like, share, subscribe. Check out VitalHoops.net. Vital Hoops is for the culture. Uhuru.